Happy Friday, everybody. Joseph Robert, the fantasy football counselor, and Tom Santinello doing a Thursday night football recap. Texans versus Chiefs reaction video. Tom, finally, football's back, and I'm probably the only one on the planet, seriously, wearing a Texans hat right now. What's going on, man?
What's going on? Yeah, that's questionable.
So you and I didn't even talk about this yet. We've had no discussion about last night. So let's dive into it. Let's just talk about how we feel, how everything went. First and foremost, I got to say, I don't want to curse on here because it definitely helps the monetization. So no cursing here, but screw the Chiefs. Let's put it that way. I mean, all the haters, all the naysayers, all the critics, negative about David Johnson, but the guy looked damn good, man. He literally carried that offense. Everything looked good. The way he was running, the yards per carry were good. The touchdown that he went for, could have had a goal line touchdown that was hoarded away and vultured away from Deshaun Watson near the end of the game there. I mean, based on the amount of attempts, which wasn't much, what he had, like 11 attempts, he did pretty damn good, outscoring Clyde Edwards-Helaire in PPR by 0.1 point. Now, if you guys got my 16-round draft solution, you probably had both these guys in your roster. So you got like 40 points on two players. Not a bad start for your fantasy week. So, Tom, man, what is your reaction? Let's start off, I guess, with David Johnson. How good did he look?
Oh, he looked good. Obviously they fell behind in the second half, and he had that 11 for 77. He had that not opening drive, but first quarter touchdown run with 19 yards. Got a few receptions. I thought they could have got him a little more involved. They look lost passing the ball. Watson didn't play well. But listen, the Chiefs are the Chiefs and the Texans are the Texans, and there's a gap in how good those teams are. We spoke about it last week. But with David Johnson, if it was a closer game, he would have got the ball more in the second half. He would have ran the ball more. He would have went over the century mark, and he would have had, a lot more points. I don't know about the touchdowns, but he definitely would have had more volume over there. So I think that's the only thing. They got those two not cheap scores, but there's two late scores at the end. Right. But it was really a blowout game. When you're in a blowout game, you can't run the ball. You just don't run the ball in the fourth quarter when you're trying to play catch up, even though they had no chance. But that was the difference. He just didn't get the opportunities to even get more points because of the fact.
That's a good breakdown. That's a very, very good point. I kind of thought about that. Yeah, they were, but he's kind of involved in the passing game as well. So he was getting a little bit.
Yeah.
Get all the checkdowns and
field. You go downfield. Running backs don't go downfield. Oh, rarely. Sometimes you run a wheel route or something. But that's the checkdowns or the screen, stuff like that. But in the first quarter, they played their game. They even threw some screens to Brandon Cooks, a couple nice passes, but they just looked lost. The Texans, I mean, they're a good team though, so I wouldn't worry about that moving forward. Nobody's as good as the Chiefs in the NFL, so there'll be some other games like this, but most games that they're in, and Texans should be over 500 to finish the season. So I expect even better things moving forward, as long as Bill O'Brien, can call the right plays.
Well, imagine, if the Chiefs had put up a little bit less points, if it had been any other offense, I think this would have been a lot closer, but the Chiefs just know how to put up those points. Let's stick on the running backs here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I got to say, man, aside from him getting stuffed near the goal line, I don't know if that's going to be an issue, so I'm going to ask you about that. I want to get your thoughts on it. Aside from getting stuffed at the goal line 5-6 times, just not being able to pound it in, and that, a big part of that was J.J. Watt and that defense tightening up near the goal line. How good did Helaire look? I think he looked fantastic, cutting, shifty, speed, running for yards, just a nose for moving forward. I wouldn't even say nose for the end zone, but just he just kept pushing forward, man. He looked really, really good. How would you describe his ability? How good did Helaire look?
He looked like a good NFL running back. He's just a really good running back. He didn't look spectacular, didn't look horrible. He was very, very good. I mean, it's his first game as a pro, but he looked good. The goal line carries. Listen, I don't know. I don't know if that was an issue. It's hard. The difference is, like, maybe it's him. When you're coming on a collegiate ball at LSU with the best offensive line, there's already the holes are going to be there. You're probably going to get in on those goal line carries 9 out of 10 times when you're playing, when you played for LSU. But when you're playing in the NFL, Texans have a pretty good defensive line. I know they lost, I think they lost their starting nose tackle, but they have a good defensive line, and Watt is good against the run. So I wouldn't worry about that right now. But he puts up some volume. Was surprising. I thought he didn't even catch a ball coming out of the backfield. But listen, he got 25 carries. Next week he could get 7 receptions and 6 carries. Right. They had the lead. They tried to give it to him, but they got him involved in the offense. We spoke about it before. he compared him to when he had Westbrook in Philly, and he did use Westbrook a lot in Philly. So if he ends up being a good running back, Reed's going to use him, but there will be some games where he doesn't get 20, 25 attempts. I wouldn't count on that every week.
Do you think that he did enough to kind of turn them off of the goal line, or do you think they're going to keep trying to pound it in with him, or do you think they need I think they need a bigger back for that. Do they not?
I don't know. He's not a big back. He's small and but he's compact. Right. He's not a little back, but he's not tall, I guess is a better word for it. I don't think so. I think Andy Reid, I think he's going to throw the ball a lot at the goal line. But remember, we spoke about this before, and we spoke about this with David Johnson and Deshaun Watson. These guys Mahomes got hurt last year, and that screwed with them. Almost lost the home field. I think they did lose the home field advantage, obviously, but to Baltimore. They want to protect Mahomes. They just paid him, $500 million potentially. Yeah. But they don't want. I mean, they're not going to. Maybe they just want less risk for Mahomes to get hit, and so they will run the ball a little more. Like we said, David Johnson will take off some of the pressure on Watson. Watson was running the ball too much. We talked about the Ravens. In order for Lamar Jackson to be have longevity, he needs to do that too. So that's something to keep an eye on, where he will be a little bit more of a focal point. So I don't think they're not going to give it up after 1 week. Especially against a good defensive line.
Yeah, man, I was really impressed with both running back performances. And again, if you went robust RB, those are two guys I was recommending. Helaire in the first round, mid to first round to late first round, and then you had David Johnson third to fourth round. Great value. So great performance out of both those guys. Very impressed. So let's talk about the I would say lack of performance with the Texans on the offense. I mean, the offensive line it seemed like Watson was scrambling a lot. Stills, he should be fired. I mean, Stills can't catch a ball to save his life. I don't know what he's doing. He can't catch the ball. And Fuller seemed to be the only bright spot. Cooks, I don't know. Cooks didn't look good either. They don't really have any options there. I mean, their tight end was catching the ball. Who was it? Fells or whatever his name is. But other than that, man, nothing. What's going on with this offense? Was it an offensive line thing? Was it a receiver thing? I mean, Darren Fells looked like the bright spot of that offense on his two receptions there. But what's going on?
Well, let's start off with Will Fuller at 8 for 112. Will Fuller showed flashes in his first 3 or 4 years in the league. Injuries have been a major concern. I wouldn't count on him moving forward. Right. Maybe he evolved, but I mean, we got to remember they put a couple scores up in the fourth quarter there too. So a lot of this, the Chiefs let that happen in the fourth quarter. That's something to keep an eye on, and they're not good. That's not always going to be there. They're going to be a better team, revolving the offense around David Johnson and then letting Deshaun Watson make his moves. They had, they made some really bad decisions. I don't think Brandon Cooks was a good signing. I don't think Randall Cobb. He's done 2 for 23, not there. Right. Fuller's more of that deep threat, that decoy kind of guy. I just, Kenny Stills, no. I mean, he had 2 targets, 0 catches. I talked to some people over there. I mean, I'm not going to get political, but he's involved in a lot of that stuff. And I heard, I don't think they want to release him he's a very, very strong in the movement for what's going on in the league. And I don't think they want him on that team. I mean, they've been mentioned with Antonio Brown. They know they need help at wide receiver, and they've had, so, and that's all public. I mean, that's out there. So Kenny Stills is irrelevant. He's better as that one trick pony, play action, like touchdown a couple games a year on the deep ball. But they got Will Fuller for that. Will Fuller, he did okay this game. I don't know if he can keep it up, and he's evolved as a player and got better. Sometimes it happens that he can turn into maybe a 1,200 yard a year receiver. Remember, Mike Williams took a few years. He had a decent year last year for the Chargers. Parker for the Dolphins played better, so maybe he can evolve into that. Brandon Cooks, the offensive line for the Texans has been notoriously bad for the last 3 or 4 years. The Texans have they make a lot of trades. They don't have a lot of depth. Draft picks, they haven't had any. So if that starts to show, they're in trouble. And it starts with the O-line.
Right. I mean, this is a little bit, we talked about this before, Antonio Brown. I mean, he wouldn't come into week 8 anyway. I know they were talking, he could be a savior there, but who could they bring in now in the NFL, aside from maybe Antonio Brown, that could save them at wide receiver?
I mean, there's really nobody. What are you going to look at, Des Bryant? I don't think that's the answer. I think the answer, listen, you got to think about one other thing. How Deshaun Watson just got he got paid a lot of money for, and he's a good quarterback, but Mahomes is here. Watson is there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not close. They're not. Mahomes is, did you watch them play yesterday and you just see how much better he is?
Yeah.
And he got paid too much money for, but you pay your quarterback, they had to do it. And I don't know. He did not look that good. You're right. He moved around, made a couple nice throws when he moved around, but he missed a lot of throws. He did not play well. I don't think he played well.
Yeah, since a couple balls went tipped, like I don't know. Maybe is it so? I don't know what the main problem. It's got to be O-line. What's that?
Yeah, but it's a combination. Some guys they play well. They still can put up do things when that happens. I don't think the O-line's that good either over there. But I think Watson still has to grow as a player. He's never, to me, he's made plays. He's had big games, but he's never been that pure pocket passer that can sit and pick the offense. Like even like Jared Goff, like he's not a great quarterback, but at least he's got weapons around him and he'll throw for 300 yards.
Yeah.
But he also has, I think, a better play caller in Sean McVay handling the duties doing that. So I'm still a little nervous on Watson. I think there still can be a win the division, be a playoff team, but they're not somebody that's going to compete for a Super Bowl, especially playing like that last night on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Pat Mahomes 3 touchdowns on 211 yards. Deshaun Watson actually had more yardage, believe it or not, in that game. So man, I thought it'd be a little tighter. You were right when you said that, it just doesn't take much for the Chiefs to get up there. And how about that wide receiver core for the Chiefs? For a fantasy perspective, it sucks because, again, like Tyreek Hill, had he not got that one touchdown near the end of the game, third or fourth quarter, whenever it was, he would have sucked. Kelsey did okay, always had a safe game for a tight end, obviously not the greatest. But who knows who gets the ball? Is it going to be Pringle? Is it going to be Robinson? Your boy Watson. Watkins. Your guy Watkins. He said he was going to step up. He stepped up. But again, this happened last year, right? We saw it last year. Watkins had a good game and then nothing. So, what happened? Who's the wide receiver too there? It's not Hardman. It seems like it's Robinson from the first game. We don't know.
Listen, the Chiefs were efficient. Mahomes didn't need to throw for 400 yards, 300 yards, 350, but that's what they want. That they want to be efficient, run the ball for 100 yards, a few touchdowns, 3 touchdowns by Mahomes, under 250 yards passing, a good defensive game. They were efficient. I do want to mention something in a second about a key turning point, but Watkins had 7 for 82 and a touchdown. Kelsey 6 for 50. Hill 5 for 46. That's efficiency. That's not going to help, maybe you in your fantasy league, but that's efficient football.
Yeah.
He's going to the open man. The Tyreek Hill play, he just ran across the field. In the end zone against the guy and was a lot faster. Bradley Roby made a big, that was big too. That pass interference play by Bradley Roby. I don't think he needed to do that in the end zone because the ball probably would have been batted down or picked off by there were 2 other defenders around. That was a huge mistake in the game. The other huge mistake was Bill O'Brien kicking that. He kicked that field goal. I don't know the strengths of the kicker, but you give the ball to the Chiefs, they come back, throw a couple passes. All of a sudden now it's a 6-point swing instead of Texans kicking a field goal, cutting it 14-10. It goes 17-7.
That was a 51-yarder, I believe. It was a long.
Yeah, you should be able to hit those though. So I don't know if it was Bill O'Brien's, but I don't know the kicker's a strength, but it's tough though. But you give maybe he should have ran the clock down some more, did something a little smarter to set it up. You know what I mean? He gave the Chiefs too much time. You got to think about those things. So the Chiefs are a dangerous football team. You and I don't know who's going to get the ball next week. You and I don't know who's going to get 100 yards. We don't know if Clyde Edwards is going to get 5 carries or 25. It's going to be like that all season, I think. But if they're up, he'll get the ball in the fourth quarter, it seems like.
But I don't think losing Hopkins is the biggest problem here, right? That's what everyone say. Oh, now they lost Hopkins. They're falling apart. That wouldn't make the entire offense crumble like that.
You got to rewind for a second. The Chiefs are the Super Bowl champions. The Texans lost to them in the playoffs last year. It was a similar score, wasn't it? Or is it something close? So let's back up a second and let the season play out a few more weeks before we start calling that. Hopkins is better than any other wide receiver that was on the field yesterday. Okay. Yeah. Would he have made a difference last night? No. He wouldn't have made a difference last night at all.
Right.
But will we make a difference going forward? That remains to be seen. And I think they'll definitely miss him at some point. You can look at how Hopkins plays this year and, compared to last year and how the Texans wide receiver group plays. But, what if they do replace him with Antonio Brown week 8? I think they are missing a receiver and it hurt them, but he wouldn't have made a difference yesterday.
Yeah, even if they want Antonio Brown, they need to win 4 to 5 of these games for this to even matter, right? So they need to win. They've got a tough matchup. I believe next week they are playing Baltimore. The next couple games don't look easy for them. How do you think they're going to shape up with Baltimore? That's going to be I think they're playing Baltimore. I got to double check this thing. That's not going to be an easy match, right? Or are
Of
they playing?
course not.
Yeah, Baltimore and then the Steelers. Sorry, Baltimore. They're going to be at home versus Baltimore. And then they got the Steelers the week after. I mean, that's not good.
Then they have the Vikings, another potential division favorite.
Oh, man. They could go 0-4 here unless they get their
Jags, Titans, Packers. I mean, there's no easy game in the NFL. I mean, you don't know. I mean, the Vikings could be horrible. They could be good. I mean, Vikings have been, playoff contenders last few years. So I personally think that the Texans, I listen, I think they could win this division. I still do. But I think it's one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. Now, that does not mean it's the best teams in the NFL. I think competitiveness, that's the toughest division in the NFL. You have the NFC West, which I think is up there too, but I think you have 3 teams, and I do like Jacksonville in this division, but I don't think they're going to win it. I think they'll be better than what people say, what people have been saying, your friends in the media. But yeah. I also think the Texans, the Colts, and the Titans, I don't think the Titans will, but I think any of those 3 teams, I would not be surprised if they won this division or they were all 9-7 to finish the year. It's going to be a dogfight in this division.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be very tough.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts, concerns? What about the audience there? I mean, we were social distancing.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, it kind
of, go ahead.
I had my Bose system up here with my subwoofer, and I just couldn't imagine watching the game without any sound. And I think Collinsworth and the announcers were saying, "Hey, man, like this is like half the stadium or whatever it was," but it sounded pretty good. I kind of liked it. I liked that there was an audio, there was a sound. That kind of makes the experience a little bit better to watch, even on TV.
The thing that's scary is I don't mind the fake crowd noise if you can't tell the difference, but if they start showing the empty stands, it's going to be weird. I don't watch the NBA. I mean, the NBA is a little boring right now. I know it's the playoffs. Major League Baseball, they don't have fans, but I just think if you hear, it's just like you hear the roar of the crowd. It's just, it won't feel the same if there's no fans in the stands for the play. I mean, I'm not a player. It's going to affect the players differently. I think some of them, they may get up their adrenaline rush from the fans. Some of them, they may teeter under pressure, but I don't know. I do want to hear the crowd noise on TV though. I think so. I think it's yesterday's game. I mean, what's your overall impressions?
Man, I mean, a football or that actual game, like everything?
That game.
Man, I don't know. I just enjoyed it. I mean, aside from the potential blowout, I just wanted to watch football. I didn't care what it was. I was immersed in every second of the game. I mean, it was a commercial break. I was out taking a leak. I was right back to the TV. Halftime, went, got a snack, came back. I was really into the game. I just wanted to watch. It was like a chess match for me. I just had to watch football. I wish it was closer, would have made it exciting, but because we haven't seen football for so long, I really didn't care. I just wanted to see a football game. And when the Texans were kind of making a little bit of a comeback, even though the clock was ticking, it kind of added a little bit to the excitement, but I knew at the end they just wouldn't come back. So I enjoyed the game, and I was very happy that David Johnson performed as predicted. It shut up the haters a little bit. He looked really good. He looked better out of the 2 running backs overall. But if you got to look at what the time, I don't have the exact time on me, time of possession. I mean, the Texans just never had the ball that much, right? Had they had the ball, had they been running a little more efficiency or getting down the field, even near the goal line more, David Johnson could have had a 40-point game here for fantasy. It would have been that big. And like you said, they were throwing more in the second half. They were behind. So, man, I'm just excited for David Johnson. The Texans, I think next week's going to be a little bit tough, so it has me a little bit concerned. Now, I think Duke Johnson went down also. I don't know if he's hurt or out. David Johnson went down a bit. It didn't look serious. He gave up. He was being checked out at the sideline. I think he got winded or he came down on his arm. So it's funny because all of the lions in my social media were like, "Yeah, Joe, yeah, you're right about Johnson." As soon as he fell a little bit, was looking at the sideline. Oh, he's down. He's broken. And then Duke Johnson went down. And there's another idiot in the industry. I won't say who. He works for a network. He came out and said, "Why would I get David Johnson when I can get Duke Johnson?" What an effing idiot this guy was. So I want to put that guy on blast as soon as David Johnson continues to do well.
Well, a lot of people in the media do not know what they're talking about. I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'll tell you, just analyzing football, saying things like that. And a lot of people may come out and bag the Texans, but you got to understand 2 things. That one I already mentioned, the Chiefs are a lot better They're a lot better than the Texans. They're the Super Bowl champions. They're favored to win, what, 12 to 14 games this year, 12, 13 games. Then the second thing is the underrated Chiefs defense and Chris Jones. I mean, he had a sack and a half yesterday. I mentioned him a couple days ago on the show, and I told you he's a difference maker. And their defense was better than the Texans defense, and I told you the Texans secondary was weak. And I mean, you know, and I like Bradley Roby, but he had a couple bad plays in that end zone. He couldn't cover Tyreek Hill on there. He shouldn't have been on him. Number one. Number two, that pass interference play, that was horrible. He didn't need to do it. That really, really hurt them. Could have held them to a field goal, gave the Texans a chance. I mean, they probably wouldn't have done anything with it. But I just think that the Chiefs defense is a lot better than the Texans defense, and their offense is a lot better too. And I'll say this again, you know, Mahomes is a lot better than Watson.
Right.
Watson got $40 million a year. No, if you're Dak Prescott, what do you say? F you, I want $40 million a year.
Right.
Dak Prescott went to 2 playoffs. He did almost the same thing as Watson, right?
Right.
So what's the difference now?
Yeah.
You're paying guys because you don't have a quarterback. You're not paying guys based upon, you know, who they are, really. It's because you don't want to be that guy without a quarterback. But the Cowboys didn't cave. They franchised Dak. You know? So
let's talk about the reaction here. Since you brought Dak up, I want to end this off on this note. I want to talk about this a little bit. The idiot Skip Bayless said that basically downplayed the depression of Dak Prescott, saying kind of being insensitive. And I think Fox made a comment about it. Basically, Dak struggling with some depression. Skip, I won't say, you know, I'm not going to quote it the exact way he said it, but basically saying you're the leader of America's team. You know, how do you say it? There's no time for depression. I got to pull up the quote exactly. What was the exact? Do you have the quote there for what?
No, I know. I mean, I think I read a little headline on it, but I don't really pay too much attention. I mean, listen, he's entitled to his opinion. I understand what he's saying. What he's saying is, listen, you're a quarterback in the NFL who wants $40 million a year. Shut up and play the game.
I don't have sympathy for him going public with saying I'm depressed. He's the QB of America's team. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, I guess it is a little insensitive, but I mean, people get depressed. I mean, it doesn't make him a weaker person, right?
No, but people are sick of excuses by athletes, especially with what's going on in today's climate. He's basically saying, play the game of football. Stop making excuses, or don't make excuses ahead of time for what you're going to do this year that won't be good. I'm not saying it will or won't be, but he's saying basically, listen, you want to be a star quarterback. You don't see I mean, everybody deals with shit in their life, you know, tragedies, this and that. Tom Brady's mother had cancer a couple years ago. He came out and won the Super Bowl, and he didn't come out and say things. He's like, basically, if you're a leader, you're not going to sit there and make excuses. You're a leader of the team. You need to make people believe you're big and strong and have people around you. He's basically saying Dak Prescott isn't on that level to be, you know, a high-end leader in the NFL. You know, the touchy subject about depression, you know, the loved one, it's a depression, it's a tragedy. I guess maybe Dak could have coped with it in a different way. I don't know all the details in that. I'm not going to get into that.
I think the way they're articulating it, though, the way they're saying things, same to the same thing that Drew Brees said a while ago. I think it's not so much what you say, it's the way you say it. And I don't think he said it the right way. And I think that's going to be a problem for him. You know, people are going to remember that crap. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, yeah, a lot of people have succeeded after a death of somebody. We've seen it with Michael Jordan, right? You know, overcoming adversities with his father in the past, and the greats overcome this stuff. But I think because he used the depression, you know, the word depression, the way he talked about it, right?
Because he made it public. He made an excuse public. Like Michael Jordan, obviously things knew they were bad, but I don't think he ever went public and made excuses. It's about making excuses, and I think that's what he's tackling. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just telling you what I think his train of thought is. And I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm not going to judge somebody's depression, mental health. I mean, I do know a lot about the subject. I've dealt with some athletes with mental health, and you know, this is a real thing, but I don't think they're also getting the help they need to do it. But he's basically saying, hey, like, you know, deal with that privately. Don't make that public. Is what he's saying. And, you know, it's not my decision to say if it's right or wrong. I mean, I'm not going to come out and just like, listen, I think people have lost a lot of respect for athletes, right or wrong, just because of what's going on in today's world. So it's different. But Dak Prescott is at that, you know, the crossroads of his career right now. A bad season or a good season can define how much money he makes and how well he does moving forward.
And we should do a show on that maybe next week. Make or break players this season. We'll talk about. I want to get a week under our belt, seeing how things go. Like guys like Dalvin Cook, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield. There's a lot of players that are make or break. So we got to definitely talk about that as well. I also want to get more into sports and stuff like that, talking about like current events. I mean, I'm really pumped. This is way off topic here before we let everybody go. Is I'm really pumped about this Michael Tyson fight, man. I was watching him on Joe Rogan, and I'm excited. Are you excited about this fight? I mean, some 80s nostalgia, and he looks good, Mike Tyson. So we're going to talk a little bit more about sports. So I want to integrate that. What do you think of Tyson? Are you excited about this fight, or is it just more of a novelty thing for you?
Was he 54 years old?
54, yeah.
I'm not going to pay money to see it.
I will.
I won't.
You could take my money for that one.
I won't pay money to see it. I'm rooting for the guy. I don't know. I mean, 250. I don't know. How old's Roy Jones?
I don't know how Roy. I think he's similar.
Late 40s,
younger.
right?
He's younger, I think, for sure.
He's in late 40s. I don't know. I mean, I just don't. I mean, those things usually don't end well. I don't know. I've never seen two guys in their 50s fight like that. I'd rather, I don't know. I mean, am I curious to see what happens? Yes, I think it's cool.
51. Roy Jones is 51. So
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm rooting for it to be a good one. I just don't know what to expect, And listen, they're probably going to make a shitload of money from it.
Yeah.
So I can't blame them for doing it. I don't know I don't know if there's going to be like more rules, or if it's just going to be, is it going to be a real boxing match?
I think it's a 6-round boxing match. Yeah, it's going to be full out real, but I don't know. I don't know.
Like one of those, not a WWE event, but like something where like they're not hitting each other. I hope there's some action.
Well, no, I think it's going to be a real boxing match, 6 rounds. Is it going to go 6 rounds? I don't know. I mean, Tyson looks explosive. He looks strong. He looks like he's got those concrete hands. He's going to come at him with speed. He looks good.
Yeah, it's hard because like when he finished his career, he wasn't good. And like, what has changed over the last few years?
He's one of the greatest of all time.
I don't know. Yeah, he is. So, I mean, I'm curious to see it, but it's just odd. It's an odd thing, but whatever. Hey, if they can make money doing it and it's successful, I'm all for it.
I'm just excited sports are back. I'm excited football's back. I'm going to watch some UFC. I'm going to watch the Raptors play tonight, elimination game. So I'm going to watch. I'm not really into basketball, but when it comes to elimination basketball playoffs, I'm in. Sign me up. Nice. And then football on Sunday. So I'm glad, man. The adrenaline's pumping. Going to get a workout in today. And Tom, man, thanks as usual. We'll see you probably Wednesday for our Fire and Ice show again, talking about the full preview. Man, how excited are you? Football's back.
It's good. Maybe won a couple games.
And all I got to say is David Johnson. Let's go Texans. All right, man. We're out. We'll talk soon.